I bought the house for the garage, that's what I told people. Anyway, 6 bedrooms, a quiet cul-de-sac in a so-called premium HOA community just outside Phoenix. And a detached garage big enough to hold my Harley, my tools, and my sanity. I worked long hours as a structural engineer. Riding was how I stayed human. From day one, the HOA didn't like me. It started small. Anonymous complaints about my loud vehicle, notes about unauthorized oil stains on my own driveway, emails reminding me that motorcycles were discouraged from being parked in visible areas even though the bylaws said nothing of the sort. And then there was Karen. Her real name was Linda Whitmore, but no one called her that. She was the HOA board president, self-appointed moral authority of the neighborhood, and mother to a 19-year-old son named Tyler. Tyler was trouble-wrapped in entitlement. He revved his lifted truck at 2 a.m., blasted music that rattled windows, and treated the cul-de-sac like his personal racetrack. But Karen, she defended him like he was a war hero. Boys will be boys, she'd say. Funny how that logic never applied to anyone else, especially not me. Karen hated my Harley, said it set a bad example, said it attracted the wrong attention. Once, during an HOA meeting, she actually suggested motorcycles were associated with criminal culture. I laughed. That was my first mistake. After that, the fines started coming faster. $50, $100, $250. Always vague, always subjective. Noise concerns, aesthetic violations. When I asked for proof, Karen smiled and said, "The board has discretion." Then came the threats. One afternoon, as I was locking my garage, Karen stood across the street with Tyler, staring. Tyler's eyes lingered on my bike, my custom Harley Road Glide. Matte black, aftermarket exhaust, tens of thousands invested over years. Karen didn't even try to lower her voice. "People like you shouldn't own things like that," she said. I told her to step off my property. She smirked. "You don't own anything here without the HOA's permission?" That night, I installed new cameras. Front driveway, side yard, garage interior. Not because I was paranoid. Because something in her tone told me this wasn't over. 3 weeks later, I woke up to an empty garage. The Harley was gone. No broken locks. No smashed door. Just gone. I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the oil mark where it used to rest. I called the police immediately. While I was on hold, my phone buzzed. An HOA violation notice. Unauthorized removal of vehicle. Failure to notify HOA of transport. I laughed. Then I checked my cameras. The footage made my blood run cold at 2:17 a.m. Tyler walked into my driveway, hoodie up, confident, like he'd done it before. He knew where the camera blind spots were because Karen had demanded the HOA inspect my security. Set up weeks earlier. He unlocked my garage with a cop at fob, and he rode my Harley away. I forwarded everything to the police. An hour later, my phone rang again. This time, it wasn't the HOA, it was the hospital. There had been an accident, a motorcycle, a fatal one, and the bike matched the description of mine. Tyler died less than 4 miles from my house. Single vehicle crash. Excessive speed. No helmet. Wrapped my Harley around a concrete divider. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel anger. I felt hollow, no matter how reckless he was. He was 19, someone's kid. And even though Karen made my life miserable, no parent should bury a child. I cooperated fully with the police, gave them the footage, provided proof of ownership, showed them the forced access logs from my garage system. They ruled it a theft.open-n-shut.org. So I thought. 3 days after the funeral, Karen knocked on my door, not crying, not angry, cold. Behind her was a man in a tailored suit. "This is my Deternia," she said. "We're serving you papers." I stared at the envelope. Wrongful death. Negligence. Emotional distress. She was suing me for $5 million. Her claim, that I left a dangerous vehicle accessible. Mate, that I knew her son had an interest in motorcycles. And that my reckless modifications contributed to his death. I couldn't believe it. "You stole my bike," I said. She didn't flinch. "He borrowed it," she replied. "And you knew he would." That's when I realized something terrifying. She believed this, or worse, she'd planned it. Over the next weeks, Karen launched a full smear campaign. HOA emails, painting me as a reckless biker. Neighborhood posts accusing me of endangering. She even tried to have me evicted for bringing legal risk to the community. But I had something she didn't expect. Evidence. Not just the cameras, but messages, texts. Tyler had sent his friends, bragging about how his mom had the HOA wrapped around her finger, how he could take anything he wanted, how the Harley was already his. And then there was the insurance twist. Karen filed a claim on my bike, claimed it was community endangering property, and that the HOA should have seized it earlier. That's when my attorney smiled for the first time. In doing so, Karen accidentally admitted knowledge of the theft. Under oath. The case went to court, and that's when the real story came out. The courtroom didn't feel like a place for truth. It felt like a stage. Cameras lined the back wall. Reporters whispered like vultures waiting for a slip. Neighbors who used to wave at me now avoided my eyes as they took seats behind Karen. She sat straight-backed at the plaintiff's table, dressed in mourning black, hands folded just right, grief curated for public consumption. Her attorney stood first. He spoke slowly, deliberately, like every word was meant to sink into the jury's skin. This case, he began, is about responsibility. He painted me as careless, a man obsessed with power and speed, someone who brought danger into a quiet community and left it unattended, knowing a young man lived nearby who admired motorcycles. He didn't secure it, the attorney said, pacing. He didn't warn anyone. He modified it beyond factory safety limits. And now a mother has buried her son. Karen lowered her head at the exact right moment. A few jurors nodded. I felt my stomach tighten, not from guilt, but from disbelief. They were trying to turn theft into consent, death into my fault. Then my attorney stood. He didn't rush. He didn't raise his voice. He pressed a button. The courtroom lights dimmed. The first video appeared on the screen. My driveway, 2:17 a.m. Tyler entered the frame, hood up, hands in pockets. No hesitation, no confusion. He walked like he owned the place. The camera caught him pulling a copied garage fob from his pocket. Click. The door opened. A murmur rolled through the room. Karen stiffened. The video continued. Tyler rolled my Harley out, mounted it, and revved just once before, riding off into the dark. My attorney paused the footage. Does this look like permission? He asked calmly. Karen's attorney objected. Overruled. Next came the access logs. Time-stamped records from my garage system, showing unauthorized entry. Evidence that the original fob had been scanned weeks earlier during an HOA inspection, ordered by Karen herself. The judge leaned forward. Inspection? He asked. Double quotes. Yes, Your Honor, my attorney replied. Requested by the HOA president. Karen swallowed. Then came the texts. Screenshots Tyler had sent to friends days before the accident. My mom runs the HOA. Bike's basically mine. If he cries, she'll shut him up. Watch me take it this weekend. One juror covered her mouth. Another shook his head. Karen's attorney tried to recover. Teenage bravado, he said. Not evidence. My attorney nodded. Then, let's hear from the mother. He played the audio recording. Karen's voice filled the room, sharp, dismissive, unmistakable. If he wants the bike, take it. What's he gonna do? Sue us. Silence. Not the dramatic kind, the heavy, suffocating kind, where reality settles in and no one knows where to look. Karen's attorney stood. So fast his chair tipped. Objection, authenticity, context. The judge's response was ice cold. Sit down. Then the accident reconstruction expert took the stand. Charts, simulations, physics stripped of emotion. Speed at impact, 110 miles per hour. Helmet, none. Brake marks, none. The expert testified that no modification on the motorcycle contributed to the crash. The cause was excessive speed and reckless operation. Period. Even a stock motorcycle would have resulted in the same outcome, he said. Karen stared straight ahead. Her performance was cracking. Then came the insurance investigator. This was the moment no one expected. He testified that Karen contacted the insurance company less than 12 hours after the crash, claiming the Harley as communal liability property. She filed paperwork asserting that the HOA should have seized the bike earlier and that the vehicle was known to be accessible to residents. My attorney asked one question. Mrs. Whitmore, how could you claim liability over a vehicle your son allegedly borrowed without permission? Karen opened her mouth, closed it. Her attorney objected again. The judge waved him off. Karen finally spoke. I was grieving, she said. I didn't know what I was doing. The investigator didn't flinch. She signed the claim under penalty of perjury. The word perjury echoed louder than any gavel. By the time closing arguments arrived, the case had inverted itself. Karen's attorney tried to pivot, cargoed emotional distress, negligence by proximity, moral responsibility, but the jury wasn't listening anymore. They had seen the footage, heard the voice, read the messages. They didn't see a reckless biker. They saw entitlement, backed by unchecked power. The jury left at. Karen finally looked at me, then not with anger, with fear. 2 hours later, they returned. The foreman stood. On all counts, he said, we find the defendant not liable. A collective exhale swept the room. The judge added something unexpected. The verdict didn't end the noise. It just changed its shape outside the courthouse. Reporters shouted questions like accusations. Microphones hovered inches from my face, hungry for a soundbite that would turn grief into entertainment. I didn't give them one. I walked past the cameras, past Karen, past the shattered remains of a story she thought she could. True, she didn't follow. She couldn't. Karen stood frozen on the courthouse steps, staring at nothing, her lawyer whispering urgently beside her. The woman who once ruled a neighborhood with emails and fines now looked smaller than the stack of papers in her hands. How her head drained out of her the moment the truth entered the room. Within a week, the district attorney announced a formal investigation. Insurance fraud, false statements, evidence tampering. The news spread fast, faster than the HOA's gossip ever had. Neighbors who once forwarded Karen's emails without question suddenly claimed they always felt something was off. HOA board members resigned one by one. The emergency meeting meant to protect the community turned into a public unraveling. Records were audited. Fines were reversed. Years of intimidation came to light. The HOA dissolved before the investigation. Finished. No farewell email, no apology letter, just silence where authority used to be. Karen accepted a plea deal 2 months later. No prison, just probation, heavy fines, community service, and mandatory counseling. Some people called it lenient. Others said no sentence could match losing a child. Both were probably true, but grief doesn't excuse what she tried to do with it. The house across the street went dark, curtains drawn, for sale sign staked into the lawn like a white flag. Room light never came on again. I stayed longer than I should have. Long enough for the adrenaline to fade, long enough for the anger to burn itself out, long enough to realize that even when you're vindicated, something still breaks inside you. The neighborhood apologized and fragmented. A handwritten note slipped under my door. A casserole left on my porch. Awkward nods that said, "We believed her." I accepted them quietly, but I didn't forgive the place. Some nights, I sat in the garage and stared at the empty space where my Harley once stood. Insurance had covered the loss. A replacement was already ordered. Same model, same year, same sound, but not the same meaning. I thought about Tyler. Not the entitled kid from the driveway footage. The boy who never learned that rules applied to him. The boy whose mother bulldozed every consequence out of his path until the road ended. I wondered how many times someone could have stopped it. How many times someone chose not to. When the new bike arrived, I didn't ride it right away. I sold the house instead. Not because I was chased out, because I didn't want the wind to define me. On moving day, I found something in my mailbox. An envelope. An envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. 3 words, written in shaky ink. I am sorry. I didn't know if Karen wrote it, or if it came from someone else. I didn't try to find out. Some apologies don't need answers. I moved north. Smaller town. No HOA. Long roads that disappear into mountains. Neighbors who wave because they want to, not because it's policy. Harley lives in a simple garage now. No cameras, no locks beyond the door. When I ride, it's not about escape anymore. It's about peace sometimes. When the engine idles at a stoplight, I think about how the story could have ended differently. One bad call, one missing camera, one lie believed too long. Truth doesn't always roar. Sometimes it waits patient. And when it finally moves, it leaves nothing to hide behind. The road ahead is quieter now, and for the first time since Karen crossed the street and told me I didn't belong, it finally feels like mine.